Hi, this is Tyler, and this is my first podcast on Talking with Tyler. So, I wanted to give you my health update 4 years ago when I was 35. My VP shunt failed, and it worked perfectly for 35 years. But when I turned 35, it stopped working. I had complications with my shunt failure. This caused pressure on my brain, leading to headaches, vomiting, and facial paralysis. I underwent 12 surgeries in total to fix my shunts. I had 6 surgeries here in Pamplona and 6 in Barcelona. I lost a lot of weight, about 30 kilos or close to 50 pounds. So I weighed just over 50 kilos or 110 pounds. And I was on a liquid diet and in the hospital for 6 months. But eventually I recovered, and they had to end up installing 2 shunts. And the first shunts didn't work because they would not talk to each other. So one would work and the other would not. And now, with the current shunts that I have, they have a technology where they can talk together and work together so they don't fight against each other. And it has allowed me to get stable health wise and not go back to the hospital for 2 years now, hopefully a lot longer. And additionally, I have a crooked left eye due to the pressure on my brain, and my speech has been affected. I can eat any solid food that I want, but my throat is still affected, so I have to have thickener in my liquids. What else? Um, I have bad balance due to the problems with my shunts. So I am working on my stability and on my speech. But really, everything considered, I am doing pretty well now. I am working hard on my speech and in physical therapy 4 days a week so I can regain my balance. But thank God I am not paralyzed, and I stay positive and grateful because I have an amazing wife and a daughter who is 3 going on 30. She is ready to be a teenager, but I am not ready yet. I want her to stay little, but she is growing like weed, and I am very thankful that she does not have any of the health problems that I have. And my daughter Ileana treats me like a normal father, even though I have limited mobility. She is very kind and loving, and she is a good helper, and she is a good nurse. So I am very lucky to have supportive family and friends and great in-laws. So I hope I have many more years left on this earth. That is basically all in a nutshell. Okay, now I will answer Justin's questions. So I want to quickly introduce my first podcast guest, my good friend Justin from Colombia. I spent 8 years in Colombia, and Justin and I worked together at multiple different jobs. And so I invited him to be a guest on my podcast. The first question I have for you, Justin, is why did you become a teacher?
All right, thanks, Tyler, for having me as your first guest. It's definitely a pleasure, and I'm excited for you to get started on this new venture, this podcast you want to start. And yeah, that's a good question. I didn't want to be a teacher when I was a child. I remember the boring classroom, and I thought, if there's one thing I don't want to be as a teacher when I get older. But then when I studied in Venezuela during the university, I loved the language exchange, and that was a really fun time of my life. And I realized, well, I would love to come back to South America and be a teacher, because that's a very good option, and I love the interactions between to with the language process and just learning from each other. So I've always been a very social guy. So I guess that's why I became a teacher. How about you?
Yeah, well, I became a teacher for a different reason. I became a teacher because I wanted a way to fund my traveling, and the easiest way for me to make money to travel was to start teaching. But once I started teaching, then I realized I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I didn't enjoy it at first. Like, I was volunteer teaching, and I hated it because I didn't know what I was doing. I just felt like there's no progress. And but once you get experience and you know what you're doing, it's makes it a lot more enjoyable, for sure.
Yeah, I enjoy helping people learn English. It makes me feel good when they can pass their exam.
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely made me feel good too when anybody progressed, or even the small things, right? When they learn just in one day something new, and then they remember it. those things are fulfilling for sure. Makes it more fulfilling.
Yeah, I agree. And the second question I have for you is why did you choose Colombia?
Well, Venezuela definitely helped, but my first experience was in abroad was actually in Spain in high school. I
Uh,
took a 10-day trip for my Spanish class in Spain, and I realized, well, I want to I want to do this again. So I had a goal to study abroad. So when I had an option, I had between Venezuela and Spain, and Venezuela was half the price. So I'm like, okay, Venezuela is pretty interesting during the Chavez. When Chavez was, this was in 2006, so Chavez was the president, and I'm like, well, that
yeah,
sounds a lot more interesting. And then when I realized how much I loved it in South America, I had a goal of 1 year abroad in any South American country, just Spanish, right? To practice my Spanish. And I was looking at Argentina, Uruguay, and I was the same as you. I was thinking, well, I need to go to a place with money, right? Because the teachers get paid more in Argentina and Uruguay and Chile. I was thinking those countries because at the time, those countries were the money-making countries. But I had a Colombian friend from the university, and we always talked about living in Colombia, but I thought it was a dream, a pipe dream, because in 2006 it was a lot more dangerous. Venezuela was
yeah,
safer, and Colombia was more dangerous. Now it's the reverse. So I was thinking the opposite, but now when my friend in 2010, he told me I'm in Colombia. I'm like, okay, well, is there work there? He goes, yeah, I think so. So my friend kind of convinced me to come to Colombia.
yeah,
How about you?
yeah. Well, for me, I traveled to Colombia and I spent like a month in Colombia couch surfing, and I ended up running out of money, and they blocked my debit card because my American bank thought I was a scammer because I did not tell them that I was going to be in Colombia.
That sounds
So,
exactly like how it would go for you.
yeah. So I ended up having only $2 remaining, and I only knew one person at the time. It was my couch serving host, and he picked me up at the bus terminal in Salitre. And if it wasn't for him, I would probably still be there.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah,
That just
so it was a crazy start, but I realized how much I loved Colombia and how much I wanted to learn Spanish. When I first moved to Colombia, I did not speak any Spanish,
no way.
but Jenny, my wife, is Colombian. So I got a wife out of Colombia.
Yeah, you got a lot out of Colombia, but that's surprising. It just reminds me, it sums up your kind of luck, the string of luck you got in Colombia. I always remember you always had extra anything that you had to do with dealing with Colombia authorities and stuff like that. You always had a challenge with the visa process
Yeah,
and all that. So
the
it
visa
started right from the
problems.
start. You had those challenges. I'm surprised you. It shows your resilience, man. Shows how
Yeah,
you're able to overcome that. So it really shows your personality for sure.
yeah. And the next question I have for you is how long you plan to stay in Colombia?
Wow, that's a good question. I'm not sure if I have an answer for you, but yeah, like my goal is 1 year, like I said, but 1 year turned to two, two to four. I've been here now since 2010. So as of today, that's like 13 years, 14 in November, because I arrived here November 2010. And I go back home, every year or two, maybe a couple times every year, or even, yeah, pretty frequently for a month. So that helps. But this is my home, my adopted home. I feel comfortable here. And whenever I go home to the United States, I feel like a foreigner in my own country. It's like,
Yeah, I feel exactly the same.
yeah, I don't know it anymore. So to be honest, I feel like this could be my retirement. I'm so comfortable here, but I definitely have to keep the connection with home, with my family, and visit and be there with my parents when they get older. So I'll try to find a balance, but I think indefinitely is my answer for that one.
Okay.
And you, like, you're in Spain, do you plan on staying there for how long?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
We don't plan on moving again. So when my parents get older, then obviously I will have to go back home, maybe to take care of them. And we will send Ileana for the summers there. But as long as they stay healthy, they can travel to Spain to visit us.
all right, that sounds like a good way to do it. Yeah, you have to find that balance with family. That's the most difficult part about living abroad, right? In my opinion.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, leaving your family. Like my little brother, I am 10 years older than him, and he was just a little boy when I left.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So my mental picture of him is always as a little boy, even though he is almost 30 now.
Wow. Yeah, you've been abroad longer than me. I have a similar situation with my nieces. They're my brother. I have an older brother with two daughters, and they were born when I was in Colombia, and I've lived in Colombia their entire lives. But it's pretty cool that blood, they say blood is thicker than, what is it? Blood is thicker than water. I've
Number five. Do you want a wife and kids eventually?
Yeah, that's a good question, Tyler. I've thought about that more. I always thought, once I get closer to my 40s, I'm going to be turning 39 soon. I would take that question a little more seriously, because when you live abroad, and I was in this bachelor kind of group of friends. We both were before you got married, right? So
Yeah,
it was it was always like hard to imagine having a family. You get in this zone and so used to being independent that you have your own finances and savings that you can do whatever. You don't have the limitations our parents had. So it gives you a lot of independence and opportunities to do whatever you want. But recently I've thought about this, and I dated a girl that had a 7-year-old daughter, and it was great. It was a cool experience, and I'm still, friends and close to them. And I thought that maybe, yeah, next, if I meet the right girl, I always thought maybe adoption too, but I think you need to have a wife or a partner to help. It's not the same doing it on your own. You need the support. I imagine you know better than me that.
yes, absolutely.
So unless I find the right girl, I guess yeah, I would be willing if I find the right girl, because I know a lot of people our generation don't want to have kids. They're focused on their um their careers. But I had the spiritual awakening kind of. I did Yahe. You know what Yahe is in Colombia?
Yeah.
ayahuasca, and it really put me on a journey that just opened my mind, and I started thinking about, my priorities and what I value, and it really put this desire of being a father in me, and I actually wrote a book about it. So I wrote a manuscript about my process of this journey, spiritual journey on Yahé. So I'm planning on finishing that the next year here.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, you know my answer to that question. I have a wife and a kid, but due to my health problems, we are not going to have any more children. So Ileana will be our princess.
Yeah.
But my biggest regret is that I was afraid of the responsibility of being a father, and I delayed it and delayed it until Jenny forced me to have children. And I wish I would have done it sooner when I was younger and healthier.
hmm I heard that from many people. I talked to a guy that had his first child when he was 48. And he's like, man, I wish I would have done this 10 years ago. So
Yeah,
I definitely feel the clock's ticking, but you can't just have a child with anybody, and it's got to be a good situation. So, yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
yeah. And my next question for you is, what is your favorite memory of us together?
Man, I don't know. There's a lot of memories, man.
Yeah,
I remember the first time we met, but well, yeah, that's kind of yeah. Maybe it was one of the most vivid is the first time we met. I remember when you walked in for an interview because I was working as the coordinator of this English business with Ruben. You remember?
yeah,
Uh, and you came in to looking for a job, and I was like, we don't need anybody. I'll put you on the list, the waiting list, and then when we did need more teachers, we got more classes. You came in again, and I had you meet with Ruben, and it was interesting because I didn't know much about you, and you had this big scar on your head, and
yeah,
from your first surgery, right? Your or previous surgeries.
yeah.
It was right back. It's back here, and I knew you told me to mention it, but Ruben didn't know, and he's like, "What is this guy, a gangster or something?" He thought you had this big scar on your head because you got in like a fight or something. And I'm like,
Yeah,
no, I think it was a medical thing. And yeah,
got
that's what
attacked
it
by
was.
a bear.
Yeah, attacked by a bear. But besides that, I was thinking just the times we had, we always had great laughs at the tiendas, the shops having beers and
Yeah,
trips. I remember that trip we took with Ruben to the place. That was a big memory too. I love that. We had a group of teacher friends and we went to Carmen de Apicala, like outside of
yeah,
Bogota to this hot little town. And we partied down, had a barbecue and swimming, and just the great thing about one of my biggest memories is laughing. We laughed a lot.
yeah. We had a good time.
I feel like work did it.
Yeah,
Felt like just hanging out with your
and
friends.
yeah, probably my favorite memory of you is that time that we went out for Halloween and we dressed up as a train, and then we got all messed up throughout the night and the costume fell to pieces.
You were a good sport about that. Yeah, it was a roller coaster costume. I'll have to share a photo of that. It was a roller.
Yeah, that was in the roller coaster. Yeah.
It looks so good on the picture I found online. And I'm like, this is the goal here. And I had you, and I think there were three other. It was Aaron and the Scottish girl. What's her name? Um,
Romina.
No, no, the Scottish girl was her starts with a gosh, what's her name? I can't believe I forgot it. But anyways,
Uh,
good sports, and we spent like 8 hours. I think it was during our work day too. Like we finished work a little
yeah,
early, and then we started working on it. It spent like I think it was at least four. It's like a 8 hour thing because during work I was like messing around with stuff, and then the last after work we got constructing it, like 8 hours total of working on that damn thing. And then when we got to the street, it just fell apart. Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, I'll have
yeah, that was
pictures.
a good time.
Yeah, I'll put some pictures up for that. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the next question I have for you is how and when we met each other.
Well, I kind of mentioned that we met because of that interview. I remember it very vividly. And I think you found me. How did you find me? I guess is my question. But we met. Do you remember the exact date? It had to be like 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been around 2012 because that is when I moved to Colombia.
Hmm. And do you remember how you found out about the company I was working for?
No, probably just Google, but I cannot remember.
Yeah, maybe Ruben had something posted. I think Ruben had like the same way I found him. He posted something on could have even been like couch surfing or something. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, it could have been that.
Yeah. Cool. What's the next question?
The next question is, what are your future plans?
Whoosh. Well, so I was working, the last job I had was for 5 years working for a tech company, teaching with the same friends that Mihail and Podge, we've been working together. And
Yeah,
and yeah, so my next future plans, I quit that job in February, so I'm actually independent right now, and I wanted to dedicate my time at least 1 year to like I call it a sabbatical, but just dedicating my time to helping out people and the planet. I wanted to work more outdoors, get connected with nature because the nature here in Colombia is so awesome. And I'm like, I've been in front of a computer. One day I just had this moment in front of a computer. I'm like, I need to get my hands dirty. So I quit my job and I'm living off my savings and I'm planning on finishing this book. And I would like to start maybe a blog or some kind of website. I'm calling it wellnesstrucker.com. And I'm going to use it as a
yeah,
platform to like get my book idea out there. And my book is surrounded around this idea of starting like a wellness kind of I called it wellness tourism at first, but it's starting to turn into more like volunteer, like becoming a volunteer and focusing on your well-being, like a sabbatical, being like a coach and a guide for helping people kind of do what I've been doing. And I've been really focused on the indigenous. I've always been the indigenous in Colombia are amazing, and especially where I'm living, the heart of the world, they call it, in the Sierra Nevada, Santa Marta. The indigenous are very connected to their ancestry and their knowledge. They still have it. They've maintained it because they fleed into the mountains, so they hid in the mountains for years. And unlike, the indigenous in the United States, they were forced to integrate, but these indigenous in Colombia, they fleed into the jungles, so they
yeah,
maintained their cultures, and now they're starting to connect more with society. So I would love to be a part of helping conserve the nature and preserve the culture of these indigenous. So that's really in line with my project, and I'm trying to form a project based off of this sabbatical idea and kind of helping doing something with my time, dedicate my time and energy to the better of humans and the planet. So it sounds like I'm Captain Planet, right? Like I want to do something big, but whatever I can inspire.
yeah, that's a good goal. Good to help other people.
Yeah. I mean, life's too short not to, right? Like to
Yeah,
inspire and help other people. So
yeah.
And how about you?
And for me, my future plans are learning how to walk correctly again without assistance of a walker or wheelchair, and regaining my ability to speak correctly, and really just getting healthier and trying to be the best husband and father that I can be.
Like, yeah, no, that's definitely a good attitude. And yeah, that's, I wish you the best in that. And I think you already made a lot of progress from what I've seen. When we met a few times before this, you're already speaking better. And I haven't seen you walk yet, but I know you're on top of that too. So keep it up, man.
Yeah, you gotta keep plugging away.
Hmm.
So this condition that I have, it I get better slowly,
Yeah.
and progress is small, but at least I am making progress, and I will only continue to get better.
Yeah.
This is not a condition that will get progressively worse.
It will or it won't.
It will not. It won't. So
Okay.
mentally, it's good for me to know that if I work hard and put in the effort, then I will get better.
Wow. So you don't expect any more surgeries or anything?
No,
Wow, that's awesome.
I only have one more surgery to correct my crooked left eye, but it will not improve my vision. It will
Yeah,
only look better aesthetically. So
well,
it will look normal again.
for sure. No, I always say, everyone, you don't know what your true priorities are until your health goes into jeopardy, that puts you into a
Yeah.
mindset that the survival mode, like this is my priority. And you obviously know your priorities, do you have them straight? For me, I mean, I still don't know my purpose, my priorities. I'm still trying to get them straight, but anytime the health is in jeopardy, then you really go back to what you really need in life. Good health, family support, right? Those things.
Yeah, I am very thankful for my family and friends and Jenny and Eliana, because I would not have made it without them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, what else do you got for me today, Tyler?
One more question. My last question is, when did you learn Spanish, and did you know it before moving abroad?
Well, that was a struggle because like I said, I went to high school. When I went to high school, I went to Spain and I was doing Spanish classes, right, with my Spanish teacher. And I struggled, it was difficult. I learned just the basics like to be, estar, ser, and I really didn't apply myself in high school. And that's one of my biggest regrets. If I would have spent a little more time on it in high school, that base. But either way, that little base I had helped me. And then I didn't know much until I went to Venezuela for 5 months in the study abroad. And I learned more in that 5 months than I did in many years of Spanish in high school and even grade school. I did a couple semesters. So that just shows when you need it and you are more motivated, when you're using it, it helps, right? And I learned a lot in Venezuela. But still, I wasn't that great. In Colombia, I learned majority of my Spanish. But I think the way we were living as teachers, English teachers, they say if you want to learn a language, don't teach your own language in that country because we lived in English. If you think about it, for the first 5 years, I lived in English in Colombia. So, I mean, I had basic, at the market, all that stuff, I had no problem. But then in a good conversation, sometimes I got lost, a deep conversation, and I had difficulty expressing myself. So really my last few years, I would say the last 5 years, I really started getting confidence with my Spanish. And I was surprised in Santa Marta, it's a touristic place, but all my friends here speak Spanish, even the foreigners. So, if I don't know it after 10 plus years, there's a problem, right? So I learned it by
Yeah.
necessity. I had to learn it. And it was a fun process. And I definitely I'm happy. I put the time and effort, but it's a challenge. I know my students, to finish this, I have two students. Whenever I teach a student, I have students that say, I want to learn English. If you want to, I want to be rich. I want to be a millionaire. We want the results, but the people that really learn a language are the ones that enjoy the process. They don't need a teacher,
Yeah.
right? They can find free resources online these days. You don't need a teacher, but a teacher helps you motivate and get you past the intermediate plateau, for advanced learners. But if you're a basic learner and you want to learn it, it's not enough. You need to love learning the language. You need to go search for opportunities and enjoy the process, enjoy the entertainment in that language, like movies and stuff like that. So I didn't enjoy that in Spanish. I enjoyed the process, communicating with people, but I didn't enjoy watching movies in Spanish. I didn't take the extra time to study. So that process was difficult for me. It was longer than most, probably.
Yeah.
And how about you? You said you didn't know any.
Well, for me, before I moved to Colombia, I assumed that everyone in Colombia would speak English, but I was wrong.
Yeah, way right.
When I arrived and I did not speak any Spanish, I really struggled and I learned Spanish at first only to survive, to get food and all that basic stuff. But then I started to really love Spanish, and then I started to learn it because I love the language.
Nice. Yeah, that's a lot, works for a lot of people, but that's funny you assumed. Because yeah, I think Colombia, they definitely have made some strides to improve Spanish or English. And a lot of people do know English, but the majority do not. I would say it's a thing of educational system. Like if they were in a school that taught them English, they know English, but besides that, majority of the people in Colombia don't know. Hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
And the next question I have for you, Justin,
Uh-huh.
is if you miss anything about the States.
That's a good question. Yeah, after 13 years, you would think I'd miss some stuff. I mean, I always say this, the thing I miss the most is my friends and family. Um, like I said, I feel like a foreigner in my own country because the diet is probably the most difficult thing for me to adjust to. When I always go home, I feel bloated and I feel all these temptations. And when I try something I used to love, I'm like, why did I used to like this? Like macaroni cheese or like something sweet, a candy I used to eat, a chocolate. I'm like, this doesn't taste the same. It might be a change in my taste buds, but that kind of, for me, when I go home, I miss more about Colombia. That's how much it's changed for me. Like I miss the fruits and vegetables in Colombia when I go to the United States. But I would have to say the people. and the people that I've been come close to there is the main thing I miss. But also the security, just they say "dada papaya, give papaya" here in Colombia. So like in Colombia, they have this culture where if you have your phone or something on the street, you're giving papaya, you're making yourself vulnerable to thieves. So I definitely miss the not worrying so much about petty theft, right? Like about getting my phone robbed and my money pickpocketed, stuff like that is not so common in the United States. So I miss that and the infrastructure. Things are a little more structured there. The water, you get good water there. So that can kind of get to you sometimes in Colombia when things don't work so well with like we were saying, the paperwork and all this stuff. You have to go through hoops to do anything with the government and the stuff like that. So yeah, that's stuff I miss in the United States, but food, not so much. I would say mostly the people and just the infrastructure and the safety and I mean, it's definitely dangerous in the United States too, but the safety in general for here is the petty theft and all that. You have to work.
Yeah.
And you, what do you
Well, for me, I miss my family and my friends like you, but I miss the food from Texas and I miss the food from Colombia.
uh,
Spanish food is okay. It's not bad, but it's not great either. And I like that Spain has good infrastructure
mhm,
and security, healthcare and education. The
mhm,
like is good here.
yeah,
The like in the States is too fast for me. Everyone is always working to pay off their credit cards,
yep,
and I don't like that lifestyle.
yeah.
It is more relaxed here in Spain or in Colombia.
I agree 100%. That's what I love about the lifestyle here. It's just a little more relaxed, and you don't feel so rushed. And yeah, like people have time for you on the streets. Like everyone's go, go, go in the States, and you people just seem to have a little more time for interactions and I don't know, but if for the food wise in Spain, you got the Mediterranean diet over there, right? That's a healthy diet at least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we eat pretty healthy here. Our housekeeper is from Colombia, so she cooks Colombian style.
And but she doesn't get you those frosted Cheerios for breakfast, I imagine, huh? You miss those from the States?
Yeah, I miss those and Pop Tarts and donut sticks and all the other junk food from the US.
I remember you came from the US one time from visiting your family in Colombia. You arrived with your anytime we go home, right? You always come back with it means it shows what you miss when you come back with all the loads of food. And for you, you had all these cereals, like four boxes of cereal. One was frosted Cheerios, and then you had Pop Tarts and all that. So I was like, yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah,
I bring back Golden Grams, those good old Golden Grams, the cereals you
yeah,
here. So it's
I like Golden Grams.
half of my suitcase is always just food that I bring back I can't find here. So that
Yeah, me too. And do you have any more questions for me?
well, yeah, I mean, Tyler, I learned a lot about you in this interview, so I was pretty cool about your how you've been doing. But like, I just know that you've been so positive and stuff through all this. Like, what's your secret to maintaining this grateful and positive mindset?
Well, I have a very supportive family and friends, so that helps for sure. But staying positive, I just have to know that my condition is only temporary. So even if I am like this for 5 more years in my total lifespan, hopefully this will only be the blink of an eye, and then I will go back to normal.
Man, that's
So I am not with a medical condition that will get progressively worse with time and effort. It will only continue to improve.
nice. Yeah, that's excellent. I can't wait for that day when we look back at this and see all your progress. But that brings me into the next, like in your day-to-day life, what part of your day is the most challenging?
Uh, the hardest thing for me is tying my shoes. It sounds simple and easy, and I'm sure it is something that you can do with zero effort, so you don't even think about it. But I have problems with fine motor control, so tying my shoes is extremely difficult for me, or buttoning a button down shirt. It takes me a long time.
You got to get with the fashion styles, the hey dudes, you know, those shoes, the slip-ons without shoelaces. You got to get
Yeah, I already have a pair.
nice. Yeah, yeah, but yeah, I hear you. Like I when I injured my hand, I realized just working with one hand was enough effort to wash dishes, cut food, and all this. So I hear you. Like just having one hand is difficult. I imagine your situation is even more challenging. And that brings me to our last question. What's your favorite part of the day?
My favorite part of the day is when Ileana gets home from her school. She is going to finish her first year of school at the end of May. And when she comes home and gives me a hug and smiles at me and tells me about her day, that is my favorite part of the day.
Like, yeah. Yeah, I mean it was definitely yeah, it's pretty cool. You have that support and she's definitely I know she's a keeps you going. She's definitely light in your life for sure. That's hopefully someday I'll get to meet her.
Yeah, I hope so. She keeps me busy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for being my first guest on my podcast.
No, Tyler,
I hope
pleasure.
to continue this well into the future.
Well, thanks for having me, Tyler, and I'm looking forward to watching your next episodes and hearing learning more about you and the people that you've had the important people you've had throughout your life. So I think it's a great start. So keep it up.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you. Take care. Talk to you
Bye.
soon. Bye.